and the battle for America will shine so bright.
The battle for America heats up. The constitutional republic is under siege from left-wing extremism and political threats. Welcome to Hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. In this episode, we delve deep into the state of our constitutional republic and how political threats from within and outside continue to challenge the very core of our nation. The facts and headlines are stark reminders of how critical it is to stay informed and protect our liberty. But first of all, I did a podcast recently about Mark Robinson in North Carolina. He's running for governor here in North Carolina. And his profile, apparently a new to Africa under mini soldier, comes into question if it's real or not. We don't know, and it's hard to prove one way or the other. We do have staff who has left his campaign. He has decided to continue his campaign. He denies what he's done or hasn't done. We don't know. And I myself may have prematurely become more of a tabloid than usual when it comes to that video. And I myself will be the first to state that it's a possibility that that stuff did not happen, but we can't prove it one way or the other. I, for one, have shown my opinion that I don't prefer him to be our governor. I don't think he could do a good job as our governor. I've took a lot of slack from fellow Republicans like that, but I've also reminded them that they also didn't like a particular person who is our senator right now, that they censored that person. So to run around and call people rhinos and call people out names and say you shouldn't be a Republican because you don't agree with every single Republican, sorry, it doesn't work that way. That's the advantage that Republicans have. We have a lot of inner conflict, but that keeps us from being sheeps and definitely keeps us away from being asses. I think it's time for us to go right. Now let's continue on. Kamala Harris repeating the same script. Let's start with Kamala Harris, the vice president, who rarely does interviews. But when she does, it's as predictable as clockwork. In any discussion about the economy or the broken border system, she repeats two key phrases. I grew up as a middle-class kid, and I was a prosecutor for a border state. And then she laughs a lot, right? It's become a talking point that hardly scratches the surface of the real issues. Crisis at the border and the economic instability we face today are direct consequences of failed leadership. It's clear Harris doesn't have any real solutions, and the scripted response is just another indication of that. Now, opinion note, the portrayal of Kamala Harris as ineffective here is my opinion. It's opinion-based, drawing attention to her lack of substantial engagement on key issues like immigration and the economy. And I did a separate article on this because it's a short stream, or tries to be a short stream. I added this part in. I was going to do a separate stream on this, but I thought it was important. It's the Middle East conflict, a cycle of violence and extremism. Now let's dive into an ongoing conflict between Israel and its adversaries, a complex situation that continues to fuel widespread discussion and criticizing across the globe. One crucial fact is that enemies of Israel have often come from radicalized groups, primarily within the Muslim communities. These groups, such as Hamas, have repeatedly attacked Israel and called for the annihilation of the Jewish people. Now, it's important to note that criticizing a nation's actions doesn't automatically make one anti-Semitic. I personally am not anti-Semitic for talking about this. But just as questioning Muslim-majority countries doesn't inherently make someone Islamophobic, which I have been labeled as that in the past. But we must separate the actions of governments and radical factions from the general populace. Former President Trump, for example, has continuously advocated for peace in the Middle East, a stance he has emphasized on multiple fronts, including the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Trump understands that war perpetuates problems, leading to cycles of hatred and extremism. And as Trump has said, war will never fix an issue, it only spreads it. This is key when looking at the broader situation. Whether we're talking about the Middle East or other global conflicts, peace remains the only solution. On one side of this ongoing Middle Eastern battle, we have Israel. Their retaliatory response to the attacks on October 7th, which they called barbaric, was seen by some as justified initially. Given the brutal nature of those assaults, however, the scale of Israel's subsequent operations has raised concern. As civilian casualties in Gaza continue to climb, and they're not propaganda, because I know that Hezbollah and all Hamas have been really good at propaganda, but I watched a video crying from his mom and dad in a pile of rumble, and that's definitely not staged. It's horrible to see that. And critics argue that Israel's response has gone far beyond what can be considered proportional, claiming that Israel is fostering a new generation of hatred through its actions. Hate gets hate, people. Future generations of terrorists. Many fear that for every child that loses their family, another extremist is created. As one Reddit commenter pointed out, quote, "This is how you end up fueling an endless spiral of violence. While the military strategy might aim to suppress immediate threats, it risks perpetuating a cycle of violence. Each attack only radicalizes more people, leading to more violence in the future. It's a story that we've seen repeated throughout history and the Bible, whether in the Middle East or elsewhere, where aggressive responses only breed more conflict." Some argue that Israel's long-term goal is to eliminate the Palestinian population entirely, effectively wiping them off the map, kind of like they say that they want to do to Israel. While this is a grave accusation, it must examine the facts on the ground. Israel's actions have led many to question their true end game, with some voices both in the West and East expressing concern that these military efforts may not stop until the Palestinian identity itself is erased. And I'm not saying I'm pro-Palestine or pro-Israel. I'm just stating the facts, folks. Criticism extends beyond Israel, as many observers accuse Western democracies of complicity. They argue that governments around the world, especially in the West, have been largely passive or even supportive of Israel's military campaigns, despite the mounting civilian toll. This passivity has led to widespread disillusionment, particularly among younger generations who feel that their governments are failing to address moral injustices. As one commenter on social media noted, quote, "In 5 to 10 years, the narrative around this whole thing is going to be a terrifying amalgamation of how could this have happened, and Israel had no choice." The brutal reality of war leaves many questioning where humanity fits in the so-called greatest country on earth. The cycle of war and violence diminishes the human spirit, and the failures of our governments worldwide to act with compassion are becoming all too clear. Yet, as history shows us, cruelty might win in the short term, but it often fails in the long run. While we can't ignore the geopolitical realities that fuel these conflicts, we must continue to advocate for peace and dialogue as the only real viable solution. Trump's stance for peace between warring nations stands out as the sensible approach to conflicts like these. It's a lot to think about. Well, let's move on. Dangers lurking, assassination threats, and polling data. And some disturbing news, Representative Matt Gaetz revealed that DHS informed him of at least 5 assassination teams in the U.S. targeting Donald Trump. 3 of these teams are acting on behalf of foreign governments. This is not just about political disagreements. This is about ensuring the safety of a former president in our constitutional republic that values the rule of law. Our republic faces severe threats from radical factions, and the idea that political figures, especially a former president, can be targeted is an alarming reflection of our current climate. The latest polling averages show Trump at 47.4% and Harris at 49.3%. Still can't figure that one out. Polls, whatever. While Harris holds a slight lead in these figures, it goes up and down, up and down. Trump's resurgence continues to grow with his appearance in public forums, including drawing a staggering 4.9 million viewers on Gutfeld's late night show on Fox News. Meanwhile, a Democrat donor was arrested for threatening Supreme Court justices. On the judicial front, the Department of Justice arrested 76-year-old Panos Antocio, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, a Democratic donor, for sending more than 465 violent threats to conservative Supreme Court justices. The DOJ reported that his messages escalated over time, including threats of assassination by torture and firearms aimed at intimidating the justices and retaliating against their rulings. The donor's arrest underscores a dangerous trend of left-wing violence against conservatives, a pattern that has been downplayed in the mainstream media. Believe me, it is definitely downplayed. I have been attacked myself, and they don't care. From the Democratic donor's actions to the transgender shooter who targeted a Christian school in Nashville, it's evident that the radical left poses a genuine and growing threat to our nation. Opinion note, folks. The assertion that left-wing violence is an epidemic and a dominant threat is an opinion based on a broader narrative about political violence. The facts about the donor's arrest, however, are sourced from the Department of Justice's reports. Let's move to quick headlines and global concerns. Turning our attention globally, tensions are also mounting. A senior Russian lawmaker was warned of a potential global war with the use of nuclear weapons if the West continues to support Ukrainian strikes deep into Russian territory. This highlights the fragile geopolitical environment we live in as Russia's aggression and Western responses keep the world on edge. And remember, Kamala Harris said during the debate that, yeah, we pretty much are at war with Russia because they want Ukraine to win, and she's working to make sure Ukraine wins. That's why Trump said we need peace. Meanwhile, in North Korea, the regime recently tested new tactical ballistic missiles using super large warheads. These provocations show that threats of global stability are ever present, and as a constitutional republic, America must be prepared to respond effectively. And here's quick little headlines. 2024 election and political polling. 2024 polling averaged 27.4%, Harris 49.3%. 28% of Dems say country better off if Trump was assassinated. That is horrible. Trump on Gutfeld late night show pulled 4.9 million viewers. Representative Matt Gaetz was informed by DHS official there's at least 5 teams of assassins in the U.S. targeting Donald Trump, 3 acting on behalf of foreign governments. Mark Robinson, the Republican candidate for governor of North Carolina, vowed to continue his campaign following a salacious CNN report unveiling comments he made on a pornography site's message board. Did he? I don't know. Legal and government affairs. Emails proved disgraced New York Governor Andrew Cuomo personally altered a state review that lowballed the nursing home COVID-19 death count. A Kentucky judge was shot and killed in a court chambers, and a local sheriff has been arrested on suspicion of murder. American pastor David Lin, imprisoned for 18 years on trumped-up charges for helping build a Christian church in Beijing, was finally freed. And Democrat threatened to kill conservative Supreme Court justices. 76-year-old Panos Anastiu arrested for threatening Supreme Court justices. Meanwhile, global and geopolitical threats. A senior Russian lawmaker warned that global war with the use of nuclear weapons if the West permits Ukraine to strike deep in the Russian territory. And North Korea tested new tactical ballistic missiles using super large warheads. And 2 were stabbed, 1 killed in the Netherlands by Islamic extremists yelling Allahu Akbar. In technology and corporate affairs, Americans now can renew their passports online. 32% of support for a TikTok ban, down from 50% in March of 2023. Nike CEO has stepped down following sinking sales. And Elon Musk said SpaceX will file a lawsuit against the Biden-Harris FAA, accusing the agency of regulatory overreach. And in miscellaneous news, Earth will get a second moon from about 2 months this year when a small asteroid begins to orbit our planet. And also a zoo in China was caught painting dogs and passing them off as pandas. Better than the humans they had before. We'll be right back with a Go Right News recap.
And the battle for America will shine so bright. Under the stars, our story unfolds in a constitutional republic, brave and bold. Kamala's lines echo, the same script in play. While the nation's on edge, can we find a way? The battle for America is heating up tonight. Voices of the people standing up for what's right. Polls show Trump rising, with Harris just ahead. But whispers of violence fill the air with dread. Middle East turmoil, cycles of pain. Each conflict fuels hatred, while the innocent gain. Assassination threats lurking, a shadow in the night. DHS warns of dangers, we're ready to fight. The battle for America, spirits ignite. The right news leading, cutting through the lies. Fighting for the truth with clarity that defies. Together we'll rise, let our voices be heard. In the streets of our cities, the voices grow loud, demanding the answers, the hope of the crowd. From headlines of chaos to justice's call, we're standing together, we won't let it fall. The battle for America, the truth must prevail. With courage and honor, we'll never derail. In unity we rise, with strength in our song. For the future we cherish, we'll right every wrong. With eyes on the world, we're watching the game. Global threats looming, but we'll rise just the same. Injustice and strife, they won't break our will. For liberty's promise, we'll climb every hill. The battle for America, our voices unite. With passion and purpose, we'll stand up and fight. From the shadows of doubt, we'll shine like the dawn. In this battle for freedom, we'll carry on strong. In this battle for freedom, we'll carry on strong. So remember this night, as we sing our song. In the heart of this battle, we know we belong. With hope for tomorrow, we'll fight with our might. In the battle for America, we'll shine so bright.
Thanks for tuning in and keeping tuning in. And remember to share this. This is our hashtag GoRight recap. Kamala Harris continues her ineffective responses to the nation's crises, using scripted lines about addressing the real economic and border issues. Well, without addressing the real economic and border issues. The political climate is dangerous, as Representative Matt Gaetz revealed assassination teams are targeting Donald Trump, and Democrat donor Panos Athanasiou was arrested for threatening conservative Supreme Court justices. Meanwhile, global threats continue to rise, with Russia warning of nuclear war and North Korea testing new ballistic missiles, highlighting the need for strong leadership in America. And finally, we explored the escalating violence between Israel and its adversaries, focusing on how military actions on both sides create cycles of hatred and extremism. The numbers of civilians lost are alarming on both sides. And while Israel defends its right to security, many are calling its response disproportionate, with fears that it's fostering even more violence. Former President Trump's message of peace rings true. War only spreads the problem. Western democracies are being criticized for their role in supporting this conflict, while many fear that extremism will only grow if a peaceful resolution isn't sought. And I'm tired of the excuse of they don't want peace, because if you do that without trying peace, you'll never have peace. Thank you for tuning in to hashtag GoRight with Peter Boykin. For more in-depth analysis, head to GoRightNews.com. You can find us on Rumble at GoRight News, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. Just look for GoRight with Peter Boykin. To support our mission, you can donate through the Cash App at $Peter Boykin #1. The links to do that and more links are available on both GoRightNews.com and PeterBoykin.com. Let's stay informed and fight for our constitutional republic. Hashtag GoRight with Peter Boykin. Go right for America. Thank you for watching, and remember to go right. Peace, folks. God bless.